It's Real Women, Real Talk Friday. And it's been almost 60 days or 60 days and counting since we sat with the real women talking about the new year. We welcome back the regular contributors to the OPT network, Miss Lisa Campo and Miss Lamia Solomon.
Hey, good morning.
Ladies, good morning. Yep. What's up in y'all's world? It's been a little over 60 days since we talked about and rang the new year in. And what we have all concluded was that the universe has shifted us in just a little over 60 days. Mm-hmm. Talk about your shifts, Lisa.
Well, going into the end of 2018, I felt like I was coming in really hot and going to crash whatever I hit. And spiritual warfare, I guess, is the best stamp to put on that. I've been in a growth chapter with my religious life, and the closer I try to get to the Lord, in my opinion, man, the harder the enemy comes after me.
Well, for sure.
And through the elements that I surround myself with, my husband, my children, daily struggles.
He aims at your heart.
He aims at my heart, with my heart. Mm-hmm. And, New Year's Eve, I could have just got in my car and, you say pack a bag and leave. I could have just got in my car and left all of it and never looked back. And then when I look back over the last 60 days at the, praise God, spiritual growth, and it's just another layer of freeing myself from bondage. And it's little things that's just like, clutching you at every single opportunity to grasp at your happiness. And when you look back and you're like, if you ever doubt, God is good, God is real. And if you can look back at struggle and see healing and freedom on the other side, it's so rewarding. And so it's a huge transitional shift, huge. So much has happened, not only in my personal life, but going on in our country and globally. So much is happening that you can see literally the battle between good and evil. And I know that sounds so cliche.
It does not.
But it is so true. And I'm looking out at the world with eyes and a mouth that would normally be quiet. And as I said, a mouth that would normally be quiet. And I'm finding the burning desire to stand up and say, I never approved for this to happen. I never said I was okay with this. But we've been all quiet for too long. It's time to really stand up against the enemy.
Well, it's Women's History Month, so no better way to start it than with women talking about women's issues. And we are all, collectively, as a gender, raising our voices. We saw it in the elections. We're seeing it in our communities. And we're raising our voices, I think, more in our homes and making those decisions to shift in our lives. And Lamia, you're making a big shift.
I am making a big shift, but not a shift away from Real Women, Real Talk.
Of course not. Never.
Never. Because I need my counseling. I need my counseling.
And camaraderie.
Therapy. Exactly. But yeah, I'm transitioning.
You're transitioning your look too. That's a new look.
Yes.
Really blonde. What's up with that?
I'm Becky with the blonde hair. I don't know.
You're Becky. Becky has a big butt.
Oh, okay. Her too.
No, it's a big butt.
I'm doing something.
Have you taken some of Lisa's personalities?
I think so. Maybe we're
morphing.
We're back and forth.
Our long distance relationship is about to be tested
all the way through.
So you're changing some things.
I'm changing some things.
Was it the new year? Was it the change in the new year? What was the change about?
In the new year, I changed my expectations of me.
How so?
Because and I started talking about expectations to young girls and everything. I think a lot of the times we as women don't really put ourselves on a high or a pedestal, our own self. So it's like I'm raising my expectations of myself so that I can expect higher of somebody else. When you rate, it seems to me, let's just say as an example, if you're in a relationship and you're used to being, your expectation of yourself is a 30. You don't require this man to do anything. You just want him just for sex. That's a 30 to me, and then this man, you expect him, however, to be a 50, maybe later on, as you develop a relationship, your expectations of him become a 50. Maybe you want him to pay a little bill now, or maybe you want him to give you more respect, but you're still at a 30 and he's at a 50. Okay, but then he meets someone that's at a 90 that demands that he acts a certain way and talks a certain way. Now he is going to either go up to a 90 and leave you at that 30, or you're going to raise your expectations of yourself to be with him or with anybody. And that's even in a relationship or a friendship. So my career, my expectations of myself, which may have been at a 70, I'm now raising them to say, wait a minute, I'm worth more to myself at 100. And if you can't come with 100 and respect me on 100, then guess what? You're not the person for me. I'm gonna move on till I meet 100.
How did you get to the point where you knew that you needed to raise your expectations of yourself?
Of myself. It was just so crazy. We went to this show, and it was called Battle of the Sexes show. And I was listening to some of the women, and the women's expectations of their self was, I don't care if he's married. I don't care. I just need a man. There's a shortage. I don't care. My career, it was just kind of like, well, I might work at Taco Bell or I might be on assistance. However, I still take care of my kids. I still this, and I don't have to. No, that's your expectations. But understand, you are better than that. All you have to do is believe that, guess what? I can do better. I want better. I am better. And don't accept the disrespect. I mean, these men were calling them out their name and they were accepting upon that. And I think with the younger children, they are more accepting. A lot of them are more accepting to being called B's and H's and all of that.
They have no real expectations.
There's no expectations. They think that is normal.
Acceptable. It's acceptable. Our level of acceptance has slipped.
Let's take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about our level of acceptance and how we all need to go up higher. Stay on point. It's Real Women, Real Talk. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Real Women, Real Talk. We're joined with our regular contributors, Lisa Campo and Lamia Solomon. And before we went to break, we were talking about raising our level of expectation as women and really as humanity. You know, the human culture, the human race, we got to come up a little bit higher. But Lisa, you were saying that, you know, you're really old school when it comes to, you know, women being called out of their name, and I am too.
I am too.
You know, I look, and this is being extreme. Back in the day, you didn't show your ankle. You wore, you know, pantaloons to the ankles and a turtleneck to swim. You just didn't reveal skin. There was modesty. There was levels of modesty.
Right.
There was a level of not revealing. And to fast forward 60 years, you know, from 1900 to 1960, where women were burning their bras. And now, you know, you look now, 2019, we're in a situation where whether it be verbal or physical, there's no filter anymore. And I saw something in the headlines of, you know, women wanting equal rights. Well, it's unconstitutional now. They're saying if there was ever another draft, that it just be for men, that it would be, you want equal rights? Well, here you go, sister. It's for men and women.
But we still haven't gotten equal pay.
Exactly. But you still don't have equal pay.
Right.
And there's just so much where it's like, it's like the world has turned itself inside out on what is acceptable and what is okay. There is no filter. And people are like, oh, freedom of speech or a woman. It's my body. If you were pregnant right now and I killed you, that's 2 levels of homicide. But yet, you have the choice to kill the baby once it comes out of your body. Explain that to me. I don't understand it. And not to slip off on that conversation, but that is the proven fact that the world is inside out, that we are playing God and we are saying these are the things that are now okay.
But here's the thing, and in the scriptures, when you read through the scriptures, it tells us that a time such as this is coming, a time where things seem right to humans, the things that whatever we think is right is right in our own mind. And so that's why people have to be on their knees and pray. And that's why we have to, we have to be involved in the political process. Now, if you've watched this show, you know that we are apolitical. We don't tell people how to vote, whom to vote,
right,
or what their politics should be. But what I will say is that we all have to go to another level of engagement,
yes,
and understanding what we want and voting for what we want and whom we want to carry those things out, because we are seeing a shift, not just in our homes and in our lives, but we're seeing a shift in the world.
A global shift.
A global
and
shift.
I think we always laugh and joke. There could be nothing more opposite than me and Lamia. We have fell in love with the threads of us that are common.
All three of us,
yes,
really.
and we embrace that. But, I always think back to all of these movies about zombie apocalypse. We're there. We are in the zombie apocalypse.
I didn't see that movie.
Well, I've never watched any of them either because they make me nightmares. But, and that's me, old school. She loves them. I would be willing to be like,
I would not say I love them, but I will watch them.
No, I won't even watch them. And that's our opposite that we laugh about. But we are, whether it be we're like this into an electronic device, or whether it be the gridlock and non-familiarity between the two separate parties in our country of being opposite spectrum. They think we're zombies. We think they're zombies because our train of thought is so diverse.
Right.
And the lack of ability to have filter or acceptance between these two opposite spectrums is where we're seeing the real spiritual battle come into play, because I don't want to hurt and hate you.
Right.
And she doesn't want to hurt and hate me, but we see very differently on so many of our topics. And it's okay.
And it's okay. And that's the thing, being able to respect someone else's opinion.
Right.
It's an opinion. It doesn't have any harm to you or I. It's an opinion. That is okay. Freedom of speech. That's your opinion. That doesn't mean I'm not going to
hurt me with it.
Correct.
Yes. And so the slipping of.
Well, I think there's a slipping of lack of humility for another. And it's our intrinsic need for me to be right and you to be wrong. For me to espouse my opinion
Flesh.
and you want
That's the flesh.
and I need you to accept it. And so we're going like this in the world because everybody believes that their side is the right way. We've all become so self-righteous that when it comes out of my mouth, my values, my morals are what you should accept. And we have become so intolerant. And with the leadership that the country is under now, it is emboldening people to say things that they would never say to each other. And I would submit to everybody watching that we as a people have to get back to love.
Exactly. I agree.
To love one another. You see, we're all talking about Christianity and going to heaven. Well, I don't think that there's going to be a heaven for one side and a heaven for the other side. You know what I'm saying? So if we don't come together and find that common ground and begin to open up our ears to hear what the other side is thinking and how they process a thing, then I think we're going to continue to do this. We're going to continue to be a country and a community and a state and a nation that is divided because we have no humility for humanity.
And the children who are being raised under the example of this environment with no humility, full of flesh, thriving self-righteousness, that care more about how many likes they got on their last social media post. Y'all, we are in an upside down world.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm reading a book now that has made me more open. And I've said this, and when I started reading the book, I said, God told us clearly that politics was not what we were gifted to do. And when I started reading this book, I said, my gosh, it's all about politics. It was not. What it was about was understanding each other and understanding that we look at each other and we think we know. We stereotype people before we get to know who they are.
Yes.
And the author was talking about, he was talking about his own stereotypical ideas of a person that he was sitting on a plane next to. He looked at him and he thought, this has got to be somebody that I would never be affiliated with. And at the end of the flight, he ends up having a conversation with the man, and he finds out that this man is a radiologist and that they're studying the brain. And he is studying humanity. He is studying the thinking of people. This man was sitting next to him for more than 2 hours and had everything that he needed, but he made a decision about the man. And that's what I've always said. You see, when we look at people and we think we know who they are, they may be the specific person that God has created that divine appointment with for you, but you thought you knew.
It's so elementary. Do you remember the story you tell your children? You've got over your heart, you've got the good angel, and over your shoulder, your right shoulder, you've got the bad angel. Who are you listening to? It is as irrelevant as.
Well, but I think it's the culture that we live in, where we are looking at people and we feel like we know who they are and we have no idea, and because we have thought, many of us, more highly of ourselves than we should, we don't even get to say, "Hi, how are you?"
Right.
Who are you? What's going on in your world? How can we communicate? And so we're moving in a place where, if we continue on this path, we're never going to really have all of the promises of what God wants us to have, because we're too self-absorbed and self-involved. But I don't know how we got here.
We always do.
We always do. We go one way.
It's Real Women, Real Talk, and we are celebrating women for the month of March. Stay on point, everybody. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. It's Real Women, Real Talk, but it's also Women's History Month. We're joined by some of the realest women that we know, Lisa Campo and Lamia Solomon, and we're talking about the shift and the transition that women are making and so many other things. Well, with this month being Women's History Month, the theme is #Balance for Better.
Wow.
And I said quite obnoxiously after it fell out of my mouth, I said, "I've got so many irons in the fire. I'm so busy." And you said, "What?"
Really?
That's not what she said.
Can't relate to that.
Nobody can relate to that. But so in all of these things that we all have going on, and sometimes I think we're in a race to see who's got the most going on. How do
I'll let you win.
I don't
take it. No, I don't want you to win. I don't want to win.
So how are you balancing for better? Are you trying to balance for better?
I think I unknowingly started a mental weight loss program.
I like it.
Sometime between Christmas and New Year's, different things just started really weighing heavily on my heart. And so we talked about the story about several years ago, 2016. I went to my Acts retreat and I did the amazing retreat. And I had this prayer that God put in my heart: separate my soul, O Lord, from all things that separate me from you. And it was easy at first. Got rid of, things like, cigarettes or liquor, reeled in things, bad habits, just, started exercising more.
Were you able to stay off the cigs?
Oh, God. Oh, can't even think about it. Yes, absolutely. 100%. And so I just started looking at all of the easy ways. It was easy at first. I was like, check, going down a little road. Well, it's gotten harder when you really start digging in.
Right.
And there were just some relationships that I had in my life that were baggage, mental baggage, that I was like,
How so?
Just... and just plain and simple. There was one specific relationship in my life that I felt like, I'll laugh about it now, but we always looked at each other as each other's nemesis. Very creative, very talented, very organized, very go-getter, another personality in my life, but we always seemed to be on the opposite teams, opposite sides. And so...
But y'all were friends.
I guess associates.
Okay.
Frenemies.
Okay.
Associates, but we never really had an issue. We never had a fight, or she never pulled my hair or anything like that. We just always felt like there was this non-bond thing going on. And
there was some minutia in the middle that you just couldn't put your hand on.
And I had several relationships like this in my life. And so, but specifically this one, I just had coffee with her one day, and I'm like, throw the gauntlet down. We haven't been besties, and I'm not saying let's be blood sisters right now, but moving forward, I don't want to be her. I want to be her. And so going into 2019, I'm cleaning the baggage. I mean, look, let's just go. Let's just make this happen. And it has been empowering. It has been enlightening. And it feels like the season of forgiveness for me. And there have been so many opportunities that if God has put it on my heart, I've tried to be beyond obedient. And so far, in the several things that people that I've approached in this scenario, and again, there's not been no knockout, drag out with anybody or anything of that nature. Right. It's just been an unhealthy underlying awkwardness versus
I think that's well said. An underlying awkwardness.
Yeah, for no reason.
And you know, it's so funny because I remember a show that we had, and one of the questions you hit me with, like, it was like, how do you tell someone that your time is up?
Your season is over.
Your season is over. Yeah. And I said, really? We just say, you know, hey, I don't want to be your friend no more. I don't like. And she would go, you actually was like, what?
I still feel that way.
And it's come full circle. And right now I'm looking going, I actually told her to do that. And she did it. Wow. And it just,
but it took you how many years though?
That was years ago.
Years for that to evolve to that. But it's never
But
been.
Is that about, though, Lamia, raising your expectation?
It is.
It is performing on a higher level.
It is. It's raising your expectation, performing on a higher level, saying, you know what? This was me then. Right. This is me now. I'm stepping it up. I've evolved. I went and I expect higher of myself. So I'm going to expect higher of this other person. And if you're not on my level, it's all right. I'm not against you. I'm just moving forward. I'm not going to step back and move forward.
And shouldn't we be surrounding ourselves with relationships that feed us, that feed our souls?
And she's going to reach out and straighten your crown versus slap it off from behind your back.
Exactly.
And you're going to do the same thing for her.
And so, you know, again, in this particular situation, I was like, look, details become irrelevant. We both know we've done the dirty behind each other's back, and let's just leave it at that. However, moving forward, there is something that is tugging at my soul that I think there's a reason the enemy has set us apart. We are so much alike. Wow. Imagine what we could create if we went about it God's way versus the enemy's way. And I asked her, I said, is there anything in your mind that you could say to me at this point that would explain why in the past we have been at such odds? Unknowingly at odds. Unknowingly at odds. Okay, I have the list. I didn't sleep with your husband. I didn't slap your kid, and I didn't run over your dog. Those are pretty high priorities.
Absolutely.
Those things haven't happened, so it's kind of like, how do we justify? And
did you get there?
She said, her response was, the only thing I can say is that probably we were not, either of us, spiritually mature enough to handle the great responsibility of a friendship like ours.
Oh, wow. That's deep.
And look, this was unplanned. This was unpremeditated, other than it was on my heart. She had no idea why I was coming to the table to have a coffee. And I've applied this element, this energy that I have, to numerous relationships, and the feedback has been astronomical. Now, I'm not always saying when you extend the olive branch, you ain't going to get a good slap with it, because you probably will.
You will.
However, this has been a very fruitful 60 days.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nice.
What I am learning about friendships is that I don't want to be in a friendship where I'm the little friend and you're the big friend, or I'm the big friend and you're the little friend. Have you had relationships like that?
They're unbalanced.
Where there's no equality.
Exactly.
Either I'm better than you and you're less than me, or I'm less than you and better than her.
Yeah.
And then you think about that, though, that goes along. It's unhealthy, but and this is what I say, if you look at someone, a friend, and you go, she's better than me, or she thinks she's better than me. Well, what level did you put yourself on?
Or she's beneath me.
Or
what have you done?
Right.
Exactly. Oh, or vice versa.
Some women keep women around them
to build themselves up.
Right. That are their footstools, basically. That they're just using as, as little minions.
Yes.
Right.
It's unhealthy. It's an abusive relationship.
But that's not even a friend.
And it's never even really said.
No.
It's sort of understood.
Right.
I'm the big friend. I have the status. I have.
Don't forget your place in this relationship.
Right. Don't forget your place.
And that's completely. That's
unhealthy.
Not a friend. It's unhealthy. It's not a friendship. It's a frenemy.
You think? I don't know if it's a frenemy. I don't know if I'd call it a frenemy.
Because
what I'd call it is sometimes it's like you said, it's that awkwardness. There's nothing that really happened and that wasn't really spoken. But I really started learning about these relationships in high school. where there was always a lead friend. Do you remember that? There was always a lead friend that everybody went to that friend. She sort of controlled
Everybody's
The
thought,
dynamics.
the train of thought, the
Everything.
activity,
the communications, the narrative controlled everything.
what we're going to do,
Yeah.
what we're going to eat.
And if you're not careful, you will get caught up in that. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we can only do one thing, and that is keep it real on Real Women, Real Talk. Stay with us. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Real Women, Real Talk. It doesn't get any more real than this. Lamia almost fell out of her chair. We were filming, we were midstream, and she gets an emergency call from her daughter. Tell me about the emergency ring. This is the first time I've ever heard of it.
Okay, so on your iPhone or whatever, there is an emergency ring that says even if your phone is off, no matter if your ringer is off, this phone call is allowed to come through. So the ringer will go through no matter what. So even though it's on vibrate, silent, it will ring for this one particular person. And you can set it up in your phone to do that. So with my daughter, it's set up that way.
And she's
Do you
away
hear
at
her?
college.
And I'm still
So it gave her a heart attack.
What's wrong? Are you okay?
Gave her a heart attack.
And she says what?
And she goes, oh, I was just letting you know I'm getting on the road at 2 o'clock.
The woman is, her skin is just shaking.
twice.
And so why call me on the emergency ringer? She couldn't get you on the other.
Well, you're right. And you call me on the emergency phone just to say, I'm getting on the road in 2 hours.
And so these
a
are,
breath.
and
You're
so,
still shaking.
And so these are the things that we have to balance
Backwards in
for
high heels.
better. Yeah. Our
There was
grown
no
kids-
balance right now.
No balance. But we were talking about equality in friendships.
And balance.
And balance. and balance. But even that has to be balanced. And I think that this is probably a message for every single person, man, woman, or whomever is in a relationship. There has to be the same level of respect and understanding in that relationship. You know what I'm saying? And we can't just look at friendships. And let's face it, many of us have looked at relationships for what these relationships will do for us or what these associations will do for us. And, I'm
We're all
guilty.
guilty of that. Right.
Guilty. But in this new season, I'm looking at the one. I'm looking at the one.
There's one place we should be looking, but instead we're looking in all the wrong directions.
Right.
And we're
I
guilty
agree.
of that. And, we were talking about going into an unbalanced, unhealthy relationship. No one goes into these relationships saying, today I think I'm going to be dominating, or today I think I'm going to be dominated.
Right.
Raising expectations, the way I allow you to treat me today is the way you're going to continue to treat me down
Forever.
the road.
That's right.
Or vice versa.
Right.
And so we determine how the boundaries will be either dominating or dominated, healthy or unhealthy manipulation. We as an individual, based on the levels of expectations we either fail to set or set entirely too low. And this is in our relationship with God, our spouse, our children, our friends, our career associates. We determine the fruit we will bear in these relationships
That's right.
or lack of. And so
Exactly.
we self-sabotage ourselves by putting our grade of expectation down here when we really need to have it up here, because none of us are performing at the level that we
No.
are blessed to
No,
be able
exactly.
to do in any of our relationships.
And in anything. And I think for most of us, we are not getting 1/10 of the potential.
that God has for us. No, we're all guilty of that.
And it's funny you say self-sabotage, because that's what on one of our other shows I said I'm guilty of that.
I'm guilty of it.
I will self-sabotage
Yeah, you are.
myself.
You are, because you don't like to organize.
Yeah, well, it's
But you're
God
getting there.
sent me somebody.
Yes.
that can
God sent me
organize.
somebody.
Yes, but okay, for me, I know straight up, and it's not that I like it, it's that I know I don't like not having it. So
Okay,
if
but-
I'm not organized, I'm freaking out.
But here's the thing that I found out about myself after talking, and people maybe hopefully saw this interview with Julie Morgenstern. What I realized is that I didn't have the bandwidth to organize. I didn't know how to do it. I would take one pile and just put it over here. I didn't have, my brain doesn't function to be able to organize. But what God will do when you open up to Him is He'll send you what you need. And let me tell you something. This organization that I have undergone brought me so much shame.
Once you get it,
No, but
you can't be without it.
But when no, I can't now. But going through the process, I felt so ashamed that I had allowed my space to be this. And when, they were pulling out things, but I have to say that Jade and Jennifer, I thank God for them. They came in and they loved me through it. But it is a hard pill to swallow.
Right?
It's a purge.
It's a mental, physical purge.
It's keeping with this theme that I had no idea was coming. Balance for better. See, when you balance every area in your life, mental, physical, social, financial, family, all of those things, then that's when you are open for
God's blessings. It's so much easier. You're not blocking them anymore with focusing on, I need to get those shoes organized, or, there she is, she still hates me. You have all this stuff bouncing around in your head. Don't you want your idle mind to be bouncing here versus bouncing on all the little distractions that Satan put in your path?
Absolutely.
Separate your soul from all of that so you can get right here versus all of this junk around you.
So, Lamia, what's going on with your self-sabotage?
Oh, I self-sabotage. And I know it. And we talked about it before. I self-sabotage.
Is it getting better?
No, I mean, I'm going to just tell you, no, because I'm such a busy bee. And all of our lives are busy. So it's like, I don't know how to really balance my relationships and my job. I'm a workaholic. So I have all these different things, whether it's managing, or whether it's doing finances or whatever. I have all these different things going on. And then I'm still a government worker, so, but I can't balance the relationship to say, hey, this is me. I'm a workaholic, but I don't have enough time to give you. And that's self-sabotage. I know that because it happens to me all the time. They're like, well, you're always networking and you're always doing this and you're always doing that. Well, okay, but you got to love me for me because I'm not changing. So it's a self-sabotage because I'm not going to change. And that's when it has to be accepting to say.
But maybe not change, but can you balance more? And why are you working so hard?
That's a protective mechanism, to be honest. I think that's protecting me from a failed relationship, failing again.
And is work where you get your worth at?
And work, I believe so. To think about it now, I like it because I'm good at it. And I know I get validation in working and being good at it, everything that I do, to see that, hey, I invested time in this and look at it blossom. Look at it go. And it's almost like raising your kids. You raise them and you're so proud of them to look at them blossom, look at them go. At least they can be independent. Something that I know I'm not going to fail at.
And maybe it's you're not wanting to allow yourself to be vulnerable to a relationship.
Exactly. Plus, I don't want to give up half of myself again. So I'm just being selfish.
But
I don't want to give up half.
Here's on the real. Here's on the real, though.
For the record, I didn't say that. She did.
But here's the real, maybe.
I'm keeping it real.
I think that a lot of times we have to get in touch with our own self, our own inner self, before we can give our outer, our outer or our inner self to any relationship. And I think that that's why so many relationships fail. And I was reading this incredible book, and Tony Gaskins is the author. And the book is entitled How to Make It Work. And one of the questions that he asks is, who taught you to love? And then you take it a step further. Who taught that person to love? And when we look at the genesis of where we learn to love and how we learn to love and whom we learn to love from, the relationships that we saw, I think that those relationships ultimately affect the relationships that we have with our significant others.
And you know what? I absolutely agree with that, only because my father was a complete workaholic.
Yeah.
And all my life, he's been a workaholic. So the relationship with him and my mother was, I am the provider and I'm going to provide. You raise the family. Even though she worked as well, her job was to raise them in the house. You work, but you still cook, clean, do everything else. And I'm the provider. So the way I was raised was you work. Well, guess what? That's not my place as a woman. Well, that's the way I see it, but I still have it in me to do that, which affects my relationship with a man because guess what? He don't want you working all the time.
It's got to have balance.
It's got to have a balance.
That relationship.
Well, so when we come back next time, we're going to talk about who taught us to love, where we found love and how that affected our relationships. It's always real with the real
Yes.
women. Lisa Campo and Lamia Solomon. Hey, everybody. We're out of time for now. Stay on point. We're back right after this.